Nearly always in relationships, we attract another layer of where we're even blind to what it is that we're longing for. And we think that they're not giving it to us when we're not giving it to ourselves, 9 times out of 10. The minute they come into close proximity, it holds the mirror to the shadow, to everything that isn't purified, giving you the opportunity to polish everything. You feel this surge of creative flow of energy coming upwards as intuition, inspiration, vitality, and healing life force energy. So that's how you know whether you're in right relationship to yourself.
White Tantra is the path of purification and devotion. It's about inner alchemy. It's the journey toward divine consciousness through purity and self-mastery.
It's the cultivation of loving presence and making a choice of commitment to be with somebody, to actually make your relationship into your spiritual practice. So you know that your lovemaking is literally a lovemaking. It's a generating a field of light that blesses the house, the sanctuary, the community. And I am so sorry for the places that you did not feel the tenderness, the loving presence of a mother, the holding of a mother to feel safe to be exactly who you are.
Welcome to the Enlightened DXB podcast. I'm your host, Erica Welch, and it is such a pleasure that I have today because we've got a repeat guest. Rita Hraiz is with us today, ageless wisdom keeper. Thank you for being here, Rita.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure, Erica.
So excited because last year when you came and we recorded that episode around the same time, actually, even though we launched it a bit later, this was a episode that everyone wanted to check out. And so it's one of our most watched episodes on YouTube on Kundalini Awakenings that we've done. But today I'm very, very excited because we've decided to talk about White Tantra, sacred union, and what it means to be in right relationship. What does that mean, to be in right relationship?
So there are 3 stages of awakening before Kundalini can rise from the base of your spine, the Great Mother's energy, to the crown of your head, opening the brow, cutting through the false matrix. And basically, awakening process in reality is an alignment of the chakras. So the very first stage of first stage of awakening, coming into right relationship, is literally the turning of the wheel of your chakras and the cultivation of your sexual energy to come upwards. Your sacred sexual life force energy, that's your creativity, to come up. And so there becomes this alignment from the throat center to the sacral chakra. Coming into right relationship, you could say in an analogy or a really down to the bone kind of way of saying is, instead of what humanity is usually doing, chasing this pleasure outside of itself, this ever-receding goal. That pleasure could be materialism, it could be an orgasm. It's something outside of itself that it wants, and it's got this kind of itch to get it. That's where we're not in right relationship.
When you're seeking for something outside of yourself.
And it's like this aspect of humanity's nature that on a biblical level was talked about, coming away from the tree of life within and seeking the tree of knowledge outside. And so coming to right relationship is the beginning of our inner alignment, where we get to the place where we stop judging ourselves, berating ourselves, comparing ourselves, and being in this critical negative energy which finds fault all the time. It's such a deep program. And then when people are like that, which is the average of humanity, everybody's imprinted with this programming, the throat chakra goes anti-clockwise. When it's going anti-clockwise, it pushes down on the sacral chakra. And then when the sacral chakra is going anti-clockwise, it goes deeper and deeper away from itself, needing something, always in need, never in that divine satisfaction. So coming into right relationship means, firstly, to accept oneself. That's a really big one. So the moment that we start to accept ourselves and develop compassion for everything that we've been through, and that we're not allowing ourselves to be consistently led by this program of fault-finding negativity, we feel this complete realignment where you feel this surge of creative flow of energy coming upwards as intuition, inspiration, vitality, and healing life force energy. So that's how you know whether you're in right relationship to yourself, because there's a flow of energy. It's not stagnant, and your sexual energy is not stuck.
Yeah, interesting, because also in relationship, of course, where when you're relating with someone else, often that energy is when you start judging them or not accepting a part of them.
Exactly.
And I can really relate to this in conflict in relationship as well. It's beautifully said. There's something, when you say that, it really brings an image of wholeness to me.
Yes.
Like you're whole, you're satiated, and so there's nothing to go outside of yourself to attain or to seek.
That's it. This is the beginning of it. It's the beginning. It's the first stage. There are 3 stages until that bridge is built within yourself to connect to the aspect of ourselves that is eternally whole, the stainless purity of our being.
And so what is stage 2?
Stage 2 is when you're at the place within your being where you're no longer irritated and agitated or taking it personally by another person. You're not in that sense of separation. And that's the biggest stage of initiation. That's the hardest one for anybody to go to. So it's the alignment of the solar plex to the heart center. So pretty much you can say humanity has been lost on the emotional treadmill from lifetimes. And it's not easy to master one's emotions and not habitually go into that place where we go into the victim, where we're in blame, taking it personally and allowing something to upset ourselves. So to get to inner sentiency, obviously breath, and training ourselves to cultivate compassion. So it's the alignment of the solar plex to the heart, because the heart draws up the energy from the solar plex in the same way as the throat chakra. Once we stop complaining, finding fault and being negative, will draw up the energy from the sacral center. So this is all about that drawing up of all that energy. So yeah, that's stage 2. And stage 3 is for the alignment from the base chakra to the crown. Until that is like taking your place on this earth as an acupuncture point for the enormity of your spirit to be able to come through you. But none of this can come through visualization or being hopeful. It has to be embodied through our continual choice of being harmless. And that is why it's such a profound thing for somebody to be in a relationship, because that person who they're in relationship with is holding a mirror to everything that's not whole. And that has come to, that person actually is like so kind to show you where we're not whole.
Yeah, so interesting. We spoke about this last time as well, because I really do see, on an individual level, I think a lot of people start the spiritual journey individually.
Yes.
And you can master it somehow a lot easier.
Much easier.
I don't know if it's because our ego is masking it and we think that we're getting enlightened or whatnot. But somehow, when we are in relationship, and I can speak for myself, had an argument just a few days ago that still is reverberating. And I feel like a few years ago, if I hadn't been in this relationship, there would have been nothing that would have triggered me to that point.
But then this is the next point of your evolution.
Yeah,
like
why is it that relationships are so triggering?
Because who you magnetize towards you is basically, just by close proximity, is holding a mirror. And this is what White Tantra actually is the purification of mind. That's an aspect of it. The most important aspect is purification of mind, because when that person has come in close, the mind wants to find fault again. When they're distant, they go on holiday or they're not with you, suddenly you're just, all you can think of is how wonderful they are. The minute they come into close proximity, it holds the mirror to the shadow, to everything that isn't purified, giving you the opportunity to polish everything. And it's not comfortable, it's not easy. And the triggering is nearly always in relationships, we attract another layer of where we're even blind to what it is that we're longing for.
Yes.
and we think that they're not giving it to us when we're not giving it to ourselves, 9 times out of 10.
I love that. And I really love that you brought this definition of White Tantra, because I think it's really important for our audience to know what the difference between White Tantra, Red Tantra, and even Black Tantra is. And you said it so beautifully. I pulled out a little bit here. White Tantra is the path of purification and devotion. It's about inner alchemy, using practices like meditation, breathwork, and mantra to unite the masculine and feminine energies within. It's the journey toward divine consciousness through purity and self-mastery. Oof. 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 Yeah. I also want to speak into what it isn't, which a lot of people in the West really associate all Tantra to Red Tantra, I would say, which I would say also has a distorted understanding of what that is. And Red Tantra honors the body as sacred, as a sacred temple.
Yes.
And uses intimacy and sensuality as a way to awaken spirituality. It's about connection, love, and bringing spirit fully into matter. And so I can feel this for White Tantra, this ascending path, and then this Red Tantra, which is this descending path of really trying to bring consciousness into material, into matter, which is our bodies and the way that we express through our bodies. And then finally, Black Tantra, which I'm was really least aware of, but I realized there's shadow work and things like that fall into that. Black Tantra is often described as the path of power. It works with energy and intention to influence or create outcomes in the external world. While it can offer deep lessons in shadow work and energetic mastery, it's also the path that's most misused because it's driven by the will and the ego rather than surrender or love. And so today, I just want to be so clear that today, Rita, we're speaking about your specialty, White Tantra. where we're aligning ourselves with the divine through purity, presence, and devotion. Say more about White Tantra, what it means to you, and why it's this spiritual path that's really spoken to you and so many of the couples that you work with.
Well, I'm smiling because, in my 20s, now I'm 62, but in my 20s, unbeknownst to myself, unconsciously, because I have so much tantric energy, I definitely misused that energy. I was manipulative with it. I could, I was always looking for investment that could be misused to get it, and I was very focused on my sexual energy because that was the only thing I felt in those days that was valuable about me. So let's pin that bit, because I didn't feel my inner beauty or my inner purity. I wasn't awake. So it's not like I'm above that. I really want to make that clear. I think we have to go through different stages. But what and how I began to self-realize everything about White Tantra was also what was happening in my 20s. When I would go into different meditative states, I would suddenly feel like a vortex in my lips open, or very strong energy in my brow and gateways, and that got stronger and stronger. I was just actually working out how old I was when I had this Kundalini awakening, which was around, I think it's 31. If I'm 62 and it was 94 to 96, yeah. I was 31. And then all the gates, circuitry, doorways opened. And this last 30 years has been enormous levels of self-realization. And then I was able to be, luckily, with some yogis that could meet me in this highest level of purity. Now, what happens in a lovemaking that becomes pure, there is absolute presence. There's an awareness of the etheric field, the energetic fields, which has many layers and opens like petals and doorways, and that I was able to come into states of consciousness where I was able to atomically travel through another, and that person atomically travel through me, and then go into absolute union with the whole, but also seeing, for instance, the whole of evolution of humanity. Things like very high states of awareness, experiencing myself with 4 heads, 16 arms, all in mudras, and just no mind, and an enormity of the highest bliss, like I was just an emanation out of a Tanka painting. And, there's no mind. And it's just like also like this vastness of the sky and complete spaciousness and the exact perfection in every breath and every second, because I'm not trying to go somewhere and the lover's not trying to go somewhere. It's a meeting here.
So it sounds like that's an experience of both your prowess of White Tantra, but also with Red Tantra.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you read that of Red, it's not separate to Red. It's inclusive of Red. It's inclusive. So it's so embodied, and it's so transcendental and spacious and clear. I think that if we're going to talk about this, it's very important that we talk about it from, it's not something to be achieved over there, because actually it's our innate primordial wisdom state.
It's already within us.
It's already within us. It's not even just within. Think of it more like this, that the light of your spirit, that's the vastness of your being, that is made of cosmic fire, that's at one with the one, that everything in our spiritual evolution is to build the bridge to this vastness, but to be able to get to the point that this vastness of your spirit can travel unimpeded all the way down to the base of your spine, activating, opening every cell of matter within your body as well. It's like...
Sounds magical.
It is magically transcendental. And yet when it happens, and it does, it happens through presence and breath and intimacy. Into me, I see, being able to have the mirror held by the lover who's willing to be able to stay present. And that takes practice, spiritual practice and guidance. And it takes, White Tantra ultimately has to be a committed relationship. Unless you've got two very high yogis just meeting each other on this occasion, which happens. Daniel Odier wrote about his meeting with the tantric priestess, and they're absolute states that I've been in, so I can fully relate. But for the average person, it's the cultivation of loving presence and making a choice of commitment to be with somebody, to actually make your relationship into your spiritual practice.
And why is it so important for you, Rita? I know that this work, this sacred union work, really feels like a calling for you.
Yes, it is.
And for the collective. Say more about that.
Thank you. In Tibetan Buddhism, they talk about the highest bliss. This is the highest bliss that I'm talking about. There isn't a higher state. I have worked with every single plant medicine that you can think of and been into enormous bliss states with them. I've been into the bliss states naturally. But to share that bliss state with another is the ultimate. And it is our core primordial place, that where I exist, where you exist, that is where we're in our at-one-ment. That is how our spirit is. So I feel like a deep level of responsibility to be able to share this, because this is, if you took, in fact, it's been interesting. I've been listening to some of the Shivaism, Kashmirian Shivaism masters, recent masters, talking about the high states of Tantra from that perspective. And then also from the Gnostics who teach White Tantra. That's a whole other subject, but it's very precise as well. But each one of them are teaching it from one single path. And because of 34 years of study in this lifetime of ageless wisdom, it's an encompassment of all the paths and nothing been separated. And I feel so happy about that, because it means I can work with my Muslim clients, every tradition. And so many people don't have a religious path. And it's not separate. It just means everybody can start to, on the journey to come home to themselves, and use their relationship very simply as the spiritual practice to cultivate presence, loving kindness, and keep checking into where they're not in right relationship with themselves. But why is it so important to me? It's because I've been a single parent of 4 children, and my yogic partner, who I was in these very high states with, died when my daughter was 5 months old, and from a road traffic accident. And, it's a rare thing to be able to vibrate at the same frequency with another, so that you can feel safe enough to open yourself wide enough for somebody to vibrationally travel through you on this atomic level that takes you into the melting that everyone's yearning for. Everyone wants to be in that melted, unified at-one-ment with each other. But everything in the mind and emotional body pushes that away. All the triggers of childhood, especially when a sexy tantric woman tries to tell a man what to do on any level. They are definitely going to be pushed away. You know, men do not want to hear like, could you just touch me like this, darling? They don't want to hear that. It just totally emasculates them. And this is very different. It's not like that. And yeah, so it is really deeply passionate for me, because what I see is that when a couple can harmonize atomically and vibrationally in this really authentic sweetness, that puts an auric egg around the children. And this, to me, is probably the highest offering I can give to help the children of the next 7 generations.
That's beautiful. Let's talk a little bit about some of these hiccups that you see then. You've mentioned one already, but I'm so curious in this practice as these couples come to yearning for sacred union. What are these little guffaws that the men do, the women do? And I'm sure there's actually like a pattern that you've recognized over time.
Most, like, there's 2 types of patterns. What I see is there are certain men in their spiritual wake-up that suddenly think sex is lustful and they don't want to have so much sex. And they're in this confusion. And then the tantric sisters, they're like, what just happened? I'm really upset. He doesn't want to have sex. He doesn't want to make love anymore because he doesn't know how to feel comfortable. He has no experience in not ejaculating, and he doesn't know how to bring that passion, the erotic passion, into the heart of love. Whereas for a lot of women, lovemaking is their prayer. It's how they feel their spirit. And when that presence is on top of them, holding them, they can come down and in and feel themselves. So touch and that really deep holding, it's like very regenerative and nourishing for a woman. So I have a whole lot of women that I've worked with over the years who are deeply mortified that suddenly the guy's getting into a place where he's so much more spiritual, he's waking up, but now suddenly he's gone off wanting to have sex.
Not wanting to have sex. Yeah.
So that's one type.
Interesting.
That's a big type there. Then the other one is seeing the sisters in the shadow of using sex as the punishment, like as in you haven't put the bins out, I would say. You know, you didn't wash up. Like, what, do you think you're just going to get on top of me? And then this kind of whole thing that brings so much grief. I've had, when I talk to the men on their own, the men deeply in tears as to how many reasons the women do not want to have intimacy, and then they're longing and they're not being met. And this whole mismatch of energies. And I understand from the women's perspective, now it's on the women's side, that they don't want to feel lust. They want to feel sacred touch and slow, deep, you know, being honored and all of that. They don't know how to ask for it. And so it feels so upsetting and all these emotions come up. So that's just on that level. But on you know, other layers, very rarely have men had deep, tender touch by their mothers every day, lots of massage. So Taoists, they would touch their children in this way. Hindu parents would touch their boys, the mothers, and they would have the children massaged.
They would have baby massages.
Yeah, exactly. In such a sacred, beautiful way. For me, I felt I must put flowers in my boys' bedrooms and help them to feel where their chakras are from very early as they can talk. To say, put your focus here, darling. And then I would touch them here. Close your eyes. What color can you see? What does it feel like when I'm doing this? So they would be really feeling the vibrations in their chakras. This to me is really important. so that they could feel that with their lovers. You know, that they're attuned on this level. But there's very rarely any teaching of that. But basically what a woman, when she's awakening and she's got etheric sensitivity, she's craving to have that electrical, etheric, sacred touch very slowly in points. Like, for instance, if we were to, you know, and I encourage anybody watching this, do this with me now. Sit with your spine straight and just take a finger just to the base of your face, around your chin, and just bring awareness to this, just this one spot. And it opens up, and then you could just bring your fingers to your lips, and then another gate opens up. And, you know, we are made of all these sacred doorways and gateways and 1,000 origin points. Can you feel that, Erica?
Yeah.
It's so strong, isn't it?
Yeah.
So imagine being in that place where now, as a prelude to lovemaking, you're meditating directly opposite your lover, very close, and your candle's lit, you've got fresh flowers, you've got sacred smells, you've got puja, some sacred mantra on, and you're working together, breathing and consciously aligning to invoke the light of your soul as at the prelude to intimacy. And then when you feel this etheric opening, that you start to put your foreheads together, but they don't quite touch. And when you put your foreheads together and they haven't quite touched, you start to feel this whole gateway open between you, like two magnets in repelling of each other. But it's a very sexy feeling. And the more that you can just be here, because this is the gateway of non-duality. There's no mind. And just, you know, playing with the energy between you and cultivating it and building it up. And that's what I love to share. Inspiration, not the telling of people what to do, but bringing them down and in, first to make their alignment and their connection to the source of all creation and to their soul, and then to energetically work with each other, and then to open a microcosmic orbit energetically in that giving. So it's not, I've never studied Mantak Chi's work, but people have told me it's, you know, he does similar work. And, but I don't know because I haven't studied it. But I do know that something happens in this that suddenly they feel safe. Because now they have come into a very sacred meditation. But knowing that they're going to have permission, or they've given themselves permission, they've made space and time to spend the next 2 hours, 3 hours like this. You know, they've made a date for this level of being together. Beautiful, sacred music, everything that they need to be present with each other. But it's not based on getting the orgasm.
It's just about being present and seeing what unfolds.
What unfolds, but what can unfold is the most erotic and delicious opening in all the body. And, you know, in that way, let me try and explain this. In terms of what White Tantra is getting to the spacious, clear light where you get to experience the cosmic divine orgasm that is happening everywhere at once all the time. Because that's the union of the mother and the father that gives birth to all life. Every leaf, every tree, every fruit, everything. It's happening all the time. It is the Sri Yantra. That is just there. And it's like we miss it because we're in mind and emotions. But when we get out of the way of ourselves And another part of this practice is to offer the entirety of all that you are for the benefit of all beings. So you know that your lovemaking is literally a lovemaking. It's a generating a field of light that blesses the house, the sanctuary, the community, depending on how big you open your field to be. Mm-hmm. And it's palpable. It's palpable. Yeah. It goes out like, I've experienced it probably around 10 miles, but I'm sure there are very high very high beings that,
can push that energy field even further.
Further, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as you're talking, I'm imagining this, again, I think that spiritual journey within oneself, it sounds like it's very much coming into wholeness within self, right? And there is that divine masculine and feminine within you that you are trying to bring to union. And then there's this whole other layer when you're introducing a partner where they're also trying to come into wholeness with themselves, their divine masculine, their divine feminine, their consciousness, and their matter, right? And then the two of you or the four of you are fusing together and trying to, and then all of a sudden you can see all of these energy fields sort of amplifying each other. But it also sounds complicated. It sounds like there's a lot of places where men and women can hiccup on this. Yeah. And you mentioned this earlier of, there are a lot of women on this path. Tantra tends to be more of a feminine path than a masculine path. And I imagine there's a lot of women coming to your couples retreats and bringing their men along. And you mentioned already earlier, the worst thing these women can do is to tell the men what to do. But instead, I suppose it's an invitation. I wanted you to speak more into that.
Yeah. So,
because I imagine there's a lot of women listening out there that have a wonderful partner.
Yes.
But maybe needs that direction. And yet, I think most of us women have only been taught to give direction in a masculine way.
It's the way that I work, and I'm, I don't know how to even describe this, as in I feel like I'm working from mainly what I understand to be Vajrayana lineage and Kashmiri Shaivism and Taoism from previous lives. And then innate wisdom in this body and experience. But what I do when I'm working with couples is develop a relationship of trust to hold a shamanic container to help guide the energy to begin with before it gets to not past a point. So I take it to a place where I can feel their entire etheric field has harmonized and they're in stillness, union, and it's erotic at the same time and very, very, very sacred. But of course, there's all the different levels. I mean, when I usually start a couples retreat, that people come on the point of divorce, seeing whether this is going to be the turning point. Mm. And usually by the first evening, they're all in love. The veil has moved.
Wow.
Yeah, and it blows my mind. And it's so simple because often I will speak on behalf of the couples and go into a telepathic state of everything that's ever hurt them, that they couldn't say that they're holding resentment towards. But it's generally the wounds of their father and their mother that they're projecting onto each other. And when the simple way is when a couple awakens to go, wait, this person has loved me enough to walk with me with all my foibles, with all the places where I'm out of integrity, with the way that my feet smell or this or that, like all the different things. And they're walking with me and they love me beyond that. And that this is the most sacred opportunity ever. And somehow just taking them into that place to drop into the reality, this person's here with you. They've even agreed to come on to do this kind of work because they want to unify. And yes, of course they're wounded. One of the core things is to get both parties to go beyond rubbing up against each other's wounds. That's so important. So it's like cultivating the ability to see beyond the wound and actually see the Buddha or the Tara, the deity behind the person. And to really recognize you're in relationship with an aspect of divinity. And then when you imagine kissing now from that perspective, where you slow down to really hold that person in their absolute highest light, and that kiss suddenly becomes that you're breathing their breath, and it becomes mana or prana that is activating and opening your heart to a whole other level. Yeah.
Is it also correct understanding that if you can hold your partner in the highest light, even if perhaps because we're human, we aren't always in our highest light, but somehow holding them in that way somehow energetically moves them to be more
It
in
can
their
do.
highest.
They will, if you actually can firstly drop the pattern of fault finding. And people often will compare the partner now to their ex-boyfriend. It was like, oh, you
Or
don't touch me
ex-girlfriend.
like that, or
Yeah.
ex-girlfriend, whatever it is. And to be present with what is so absolutely massive. And yet, let's just say I'm taking one couple where the husband just for years would not kiss his partner, who is complete Shakti. She's like actually in a Kundalini awakening right now. And her partner loves her, but only to the degree that he loved himself, and he didn't love himself, and he didn't know how to break out of that. And after working with him individually and saying like, and I will say this to everybody in a relationship, the core is when you're really in your alignment with the source, there's an outpouring of generosity that comes through your heart. And love making is the outpouring of generosity. It's a true giving, beyond mind, not trying to fix or think, oh, if I touch her like this or I touch him like this, he's going to really like that, because that's just all head stuff. And it doesn't take us into sacred union. All of this can only happen where every moment reveals itself. And so of course, hardly anybody's got that as a practice. And so what has seemed to have happened in how many years? I've started couples work probably 15 years ago, but doing more of it now. Like I've got more like an old grandmother that I feel, I don't know, I'm making more space for this. And somehow the couples and in particular the brothers, when they feel held but not told what to do, everything's an invitation. And they've now really not feeling wrong that they've done something bad and they weren't enough. And that they had a density of energy. So it just depends, because different bloodlines have more refinement. Asian bloodlines, their winds and their channels are often much clearer. You inherit that. That's incredible, just that.
What do you mean when you say their winds and their channels are more clear?
So there's pathways within our bodies between the minor chakras, the meridian system, and these winds and channels inside of us give us, like, so imagine that here at the sacral chakra, just below the belly button, 4 fingertips below, is where the entire nervous system amalgamates, and there are 72,000 channels connected to the 72,000 paths of your central nervous system.
Mm-hmm. Extending out throughout your body.
Extending through your body inwardly, but actually also extending out outwardly. Mm. And the more etherically sensitive you are, the more you feel these channels opening. And the more that present and embodied you are, the more you are able to open up more activities on other realms here, from here.
And if those channels are more open, does that mean you can purify things faster, or
no,
what is it?
It means that it's a more tantric, delicious.
Of course,
Yum.
you're energetically sensitive.
Yeah, like, and you are, because I saw that just when you were just touching the points, and I could feel them opening in me. So the thing is, when I'm working with somebody, I feel how they're opening in their body or not. So there are lots of people where they've not got the pranic winds and channels opened or developed in this body, in this life. And so that is the pain for a lot of people, where one's not matched with the other.
Yet, I just want to clarify this. If you are someone who doesn't have that sensitivity, that hyper-awareness, can it be trained in this one lifetime?
Yes, it can.
Yeah.
I went out once with a rugby player who absolutely had no sensitivity on that level to begin with. And then he spent many years in meditation, and he got there. He did a lot of inner work. It's actually all about taking a vow of harmlessness and doing mantra, actually. Mantra purifies the winds and channels and opens pathways that open into geometry, that become tangible.
I've noticed it's just even an awareness. I mean, I feel like most people actually have that sensitivity, but they've blunted it over time, or they've lost touch with it.
Yeah, and once one comes into absolute stillness, opening to the omnipresence, then you can start to feel energy. And often I just begin a practice of saying to people, just let's play with the cushion of electromagnetic energy between your hands for a moment. Push your hands in and out, so I'll get them to do that. And then maybe go like this, where they're just moving one finger into the palm of their hand, move it out, so they can start to feel, that's amazing, and then it's amazing. Because, of course, when I'm working with couples, I want them to start playing with fingertips, just seeing like, wow, when you are literally going like this with each other, and then when you touch really lightly, and then you can start to consciously travel through each other. This is already opening circuits. And then pretty much everybody, if they were to take into consideration the electricity that's between, like coming from your tongue to touch, like behind a tooth. Will you try this for me, Erica? Just put your tongue loosely, just very loosely between your 2 front teeth, and then move it to one tooth and then the other. Can you feel how much, like that's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just a million little, energy points.
Energy points. So the tongue is like, think of this, it's a petal from the top of your spine. So it's carrying all the voltage of Great Mother, Shakti, all the way, and then out comes this tongue. And so just getting couples to cultivate energy awareness of the different zones in their own teeth, then when they kiss and touch tongues and can hold presence and stillness, and have the awareness between the foreheads, that's already like opening gateways of magnificence and yumminess.
It does feel, it's a really, I mean, the word gets overused, but it really is about cultivating time and presence.
Yes.
To really sit still and be there. And I'm curious, do you find that there is a gender imbalance when it comes to stillness or propensity to be still? Or is it sort of, it's evenly?
Well, actually, it's often the women that are the busy ones.
Really?
Yes, because they are the doers more.
These
I think the
days.
men are waiting. The thing about this is it's about who's shy. That's the difficulty here. Because, like, you've done lots of tantric work. You're not shy to want to initiate stuff. But most women are. To really initiate this. And that is why I decided to get out of the way of my personal self to offer literally, online drop-in sanctuaries for couples on a monthly basis so I can just feel what's going on and get them to do a practice sitting on 2 dining chairs opposite each other and come into a union practice for an hour, but to also talk about stuff, or a 6 months container, or come and be there in the physical. Because very few people are going to actually have the discipline to not let stuff get in the way. Everything would get in the way of this. This is the highest level of union.
And I have to say, it's not just, the busyness of our lives and all of this, but there's also this piece around, there's a real vulnerability.
Exactly.
To have to hold that energy and say, this is what I want. You can say it, but then to actually say, tonight, this is what we're going to do. And then if it is the woman who's leading, how to
it
do
wouldn't
that.
Work.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. I can see it immediately. I mean, do you know who's just recently come onto this? My 36-year-old son and his wife, I call her my daughter-in-love, not daughter-in-law. They're just such a beautiful couple. They've been together for over 10 years. They have a very beautiful relationship. But honestly, most people would push each other away. It's almost impossible to come to this place, which is why I am doing this. Because I've felt the need in my heart so strong for people. For years, I've been doing 20-odd years of women being in pain around this subject. And it's 30-odd years ago that I started to have these experiences. And I just thought, how could I not?
We've got a few more minutes left, Rita. It's been passing so quickly. But I want to ask you, how can men reconnect with their sacred masculine without falling into dominance or detachment?
I was tuning into the brothers and that I was working with, and I just felt their innocent beauty and purity of their nature of wanting to always be a protector. That is the energy of a man. He wants to protect. In fact, he's sexually aroused at the thought of being a protector for someone. So when a woman comes out of her balance and starts being in that place of, this wasn't good enough and I'd like you to do it this way, it immediately it throws him out of his balance. So this takes a lot of gentle unraveling to understand up until now on this earth, humanity hasn't been awake. What I'm giving a glimpse into today is more like the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas from Shambhala, which I feel I coexist in. I hope that's not some sacrilege that some Tibetan Lama is going to tell me off or something now. But, basically...
Well, maybe I almost want to ask you then, how can... Because it sounds like the men are waiting. The men are in a position where they are ready. And of course, us women have horrible stories that we tell ourselves that they're not. But perhaps then the question to be asked is, how can we as women...
That's the question.
...embody more of our feminine in a way that would be collaborative and conducive for this sacred union to take hold?
Thank you so much for asking that. I'm just thinking of my dear Iranian sister. Her name's Pega, and I work with these two musicians, Pega and Yar, and and also Diane and Gavin. They're in Kenya now. But what I watch in their relationship that I really honor and admire is the women in this situation in the relationship are truly in service with devotion to their love, to the beloved, to God consciousness through their partner. And there's nothing that's too much to do for them. Now, in the West, if I think about me, eldest daughter, brother that was allowed to bring girlfriends home when he was younger than me, I was never allowed to bring a boyfriend home. Oh, no, sorry, that's not true. I was allowed to have boyfriends home, but they were not allowed to sleep in my room. And basically there were big differences on how much I had to do than my brother. So I grew up with this energy of like rebellious, wanting to have freedom and not be in that subservient energy until I think I must have been about 22 or 23 when I realized, oh, wait, I love cooking for my man. I love being in service. That's my true nature. I love giving massage and just being a woman. And then that brings this other balance. But I can see the shadow of myself, and I really see how this throws everything out.
Yeah,
it's so deep.
It is deep. I also am like a raging feminist from my youthful days, and I have a twin brother, so it was even much stronger of trying to prove that I can do everything a boy can do, and I should have same treatment. And so it runs very deep
so
with me.
Deep. And probably from our previous lives. So I'm glad that you said that, because honestly, I feel like so much of the imbalance, I was born in the sexual revolution. I have cried and cried and cried in so many ceremonies, feeling guilt around how did I end up being this single parent because of the imbalance of femininity. And poor choices, but they weren't poor choices in the bigger picture. They were in divine perfection. But I see how much karma I created through not being in my receptivity, my femininity, and
100%.
Pushing away because I'm so capable.
Yeah.
I can earn good money, do everything, all of this, but then that's pushing out the masculine. And my intolerance in the past, my impatience, because I'd feel that they're walking slower, they're doing everything really slowly. Those type of things would irritate and agitate me.
Yeah, and I have a friend who used to say, we just think men are hairy women that are doing, human wrong, but where we are actually looking at them and judging them for being bad women.
Yeah, I've heard that, but I have to say I've gone 360 and I am humbled to the energy of the men and what they've suffered. And, I made big prayers this weekend when I was working with
Give us
group.
a glimpse of that. Give us an energetic, well,
yeah, I will.
The 360 that you've done, and speak on behalf of all these men who don't get to have their voice spoken.
Thank you. So I said to the brothers in a prayer this weekend, and I'll speak it to say, "Aho, Great Spirit, Father Sun, Father Sky, aho to you, Great Mystery. I stand here today on behalf of all humanity to humbly apologize to the brothers that have all come through the womb of a woman. And I am so sorry for the places that you did not feel the tenderness, the loving presence of a mother, the holding of a mother to feel safe to be exactly who you are, to know your beauty, to know your tenderness, to allow your vulnerability. I'm so deeply sorry, and I pray on behalf of all women that you can accept this prayer, this offering that we can harmonize and hold each other in the absolute highest light, and to know that we are really sorry for what we've put on you and pushed you away, and that you are enough, and that you are innocent, and that we really love you. Ahom Takwiyasin. Yeah, the brothers, they're holding so much. I mean, nearly 9 out of 10 men, they don't feel that they're enough.
Yeah.
They're exhausted. In every walk of life, I meet these men that are just don't feel good. And they're not, I really see how feminism, as a reaction, how it didn't help either.
Yeah, we just went into battle, didn't we?
Yeah.
What can we do as women that want to balance it out? What can we do when we go home and see our partners?
Is to be softer, to say, I'm so sorry that I wasn't skillful in my communication and that I have brought any level of blame for the places that I didn't feel held or nourished by you. And I really am going to work towards understanding that you can't fix it for me, and that you can only truly love me as much as you love you, and that I want to work towards loving me and knowing my one with the one, and not depending on you validating me.
Yeah, I see that so clearly. It's very clear that we can only love the other as much as we love ourselves. And if we are in this criticizing whatever phase that we're in, makes us all a pill to be with, it must mean that we are critical of ourselves to that degree, and that we are unable to accept that within ourselves. And so we cannot accept it from our partners, which is an extension of ourselves. And as such, we are actually making them suffer, not because of who they are, but because we have not been able to come into wholeness ourselves.
That's exactly it.
And if we can really come into wholeness, if we can really love ourselves, then we actually don't need anyone to love us and fill those holes. They just actually enhance life.
Exactly.
And make it so much more beautiful.
And that's a new level of relationship. And we're at the turning point. I love what you just said. It is the truth. But as you said it, what came in was just those moments where, you've been maybe a few months into a relationship and suddenly it feels like you feel suffocated because somebody's presence came in and felt the shadows of ourselves. And it just feels like how much the child part wants to push them away. It's such a difficult one, but it's changing, Erica. It is changing. The fact that we can begin this level of conversation, and that there really are divine practices. That's not, I just want to be very clear about this. I think I have to fit this part in. In Red Tantra, for instance, I remember so many years ago meeting Margot and Anne at Harbin. And, whenever I looked at a book of Tantra, I was just like, oh, I can't bear this with respect, because it's like telling somebody what to do. Do this 10 times and that. White Tantra is not at all like that. I just want to be so clear. It's so much more about developing the astute awareness of what sacred touch would be. What would happen when you're in your alignment to put your hand, let's say here, onto your partner and then stay with presence there, and then your partner come into presence where your finger is.
Yeah.
And then the
it's a
circuit
skill
opens.
set, aren't you? It's teaching a skill set versus a playbook.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rita, we could talk for hours.
We could.
I thank you so much. How can people find you? And if they're feeling called to join you on one of these couples retreats, where do they go to find that information?
Come on to my website, I think, ritahraiz.com.
Yeah.
And then you can see the different couples offerings. There are a few, and as long as I've got a body, I'm going to continue this no matter what, because it's so satisfying to watch couples come off the emotional treadmill and come into union with each other. It's so, I cry often when I watch that happening. Can you imagine how much it makes me happy?
As it should. It's incredibly important work. I thank you so much for doing it, Rita. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Hey there. If you like this episode and you're getting some beautiful transmissions or are feeling inspired to support this podcast in any way, the best way to do that is to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, on YouTube, or wherever it is that you're plugging into the Enlightened DXB podcast. You can also follow us on Instagram at EnlightenedDXB. If you want to reach out to any of the guests we have on the show, you can check out their profiles and their work at www.enlightendxb.com. And for those of you in Dubai looking for community, retreats, or additional resources, you can also sign up to our emailing list there. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode. Until then, I wish you more joy, more ease, and a little sprinkle of grace.